Hello everyone, let's discuss today's The Hindu editorial page. The first article is An Approaching Milestone in Constitutional Governance. In this article, the writer says that on November 26th, the 75th anniversary of the Constitution of India's adoption, it is crucial to celebrate the country's progress in democratic governance. The Constitution has evolved significantly over the years, with the quality of life and living standards significantly improving. The social and economic development of India is an example of progressive public policy implementation. The core constitutional values that have shaped India's constitutional culture include respect for democratic institutions, the smooth transition of elected governments, and the participation of the people in elections. The Constitution of India has evolved significantly since its adoption in 1949, with nearly 60% of Indians participating in elections since the first elections in 1951-52. This respect for democracy and faith in democratic institutions has withstood the test of time. The country has seen elected representatives from various political parties and political leaders of different ideological persuasions, winning elections, and holding positions of power and responsibility. The deep commitment every political party attaches to the idea of smooth transitions of power at the end of elections is unique and distinctive. The Indian electorate has demonstrated that its understanding of problems and challenges will shape decisions relating to elections, demonstrating the core constitutional value of participating in elections and enabling the smooth transition of power. The Indian Constitution emphasizes the importance of fundamental rights and the protection of freedoms through courts. The framers of the Constitution were associated with the freedom movement and worked against colonialism to achieve India's freedom. They drafted provisions relating to fundamental rights while being aware of the power of the state apparatus. Federalism is another aspect of constitutional governance, as the framers considered the extraordinary diversity of the country, including its linguistic diversity and other forms of pluralism deeply embedded in the country's culture. They created different forms of autonomy and special privileges for different states, aiming to ameliorate disparities among the people in certain regions. The idea of federalism has deepened over the last 7 decades, leading to the rise of state-level political parties across India and the establishment of Panchayati Raj institutions and Nagarpalikas. The role of media and civil society in instilling faith in democracy is also significant. The Indian media is a diverse and heterogeneous institution with views and perspectives generated across India in different languages. The transition of print media to broadcast and innovations in media and technology have democratized access to information and the role of media. Despite challenges related to the economic model of governance of media institutions, it is fair to say that media and civil society have contributed to the instilling of faith in Indian democracy. The Indian electorate has been enlightened to develop an informed degree of understanding of the role of the media and civil society. In conclusion, the Indian Constitution celebrates 75 years of constitutional governance, acknowledging the diversity and complexity of the country. The next article is The Case for a Nature Restoration Law in India. In this article, the writer says that the degradation of natural ecosystems is a pressing global issue, and India, with its vast geographical and ecological diversity, is no exception. With almost 30% of its total geographical area experiencing land degradation, India needs to adopt a comprehensive nature restoration law. The Nature Restoration Law, NRL, enacted by the European Union, EU, is an inspiring model for India to tackle its growing environmental crises. The NRL mandates that at least 20% of the EU's land and sea areas must be restored by 2030, with the goal of having all ecosystems in need of restoration fully restored by 2050. India faces similar environmental challenges with nearly 9,785 million hectares, 29.7% of its total geographical area underwent land degradation in 2018-19. Deforestation is a growing concern, with 8369 million hectares affected in 2018-19. India has already made significant strides in addressing these issues through the Green India Mission, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, the Integrated Watershed Management Program, and the National Afforestation Program. However, the scale of the problem demands a more comprehensive approach. A nature restoration law in India could include restoration targets, wetland restoration, biodiversity in agriculture, river restoration, and urban green spaces. The benefits of such a law extend beyond environmental restoration, as it could generate economic returns of up to $10 trillion annually by 2030. Restoring ecosystems can also mitigate the effects of climate change, which exacerbates land degradation. By restoring ecosystems, India can enhance its carbon sinks and meet its commitments under the Paris Agreement. The EU's nature restoration law sets an important precedent for countries worldwide, and India's time to act is now. The next article is Culture and Society. Court verdict on citizenship law for Assam helps avoid fresh problems. In this article, the writer says that the Supreme Court of India has upheld Section 6A of the Citizenship Act, introduced in 1985 to address the core feature of the Assam Accord. This decision preserves the existing legal regime for determining citizenship and identification of foreigners in Assam. The provision conferred deemed citizenship on all those who entered Assam from areas in East Pakistan before January 1, 1966, but created a registration system for those who immigrated from that day to March 25, 1971, when Pakistan began Operation Searchlight. The majority of the court rejected the notion that the provision is unconstitutional, stating that the citizenship provisions in the Constitution refer to citizenship at the commencement of the Constitution. It also noted that Parliament was not deprived of the power to introduce provisions on citizenship for different categories of people from different dates. Justice Surya Kant acknowledged the petitioner's demographic anxiety, but did not believe that the idea of fraternity in the Constitution was threatened by a mere change in demographics. He believes accepting the argument that demographic change could lead to an erosion of cultural rights may open the door for similar challenges to undermine interstate migration in the guise of protecting indigenous culture. As the exercise to finalize a national register of citizens for Assam is in limbo, with 19 lakh people identified as non-citizens, any decision invalidating Section 6A would have created fresh complications. The next article is Allow for Deliberation. Lack of a legislature, regional autonomy in Ladakh have led to current protests. In this article, the writer says that the abrogation of Jammu and Kashmir's special status and its bifurcation into two union territories, UT, including Ladakh, has led to a backlash from residents who initially welcomed the changes. A Lakhnidi survey shows that 4/10 of Jammu residents oppose the abrogation of special status, while a larger majority seeks restoration of statehood. When Ladakh was hived into a UT from the then United State, the government justified this as reflecting a demand from residents of Ladakh, particularly Leh, who were concerned about the dominance of the Kashmir Valley and Jammu in its previous legislature. However, the protests in Ladakh with the demand for statehood or the province's inclusion in the 6th schedule of the Constitution have shown the unpopularity of the decisions made by the Bharatiya Janata Party-led government. The absence of an empowered legislature in the newly formed UT has led to protests, raising questions about whether the union government could have avoided the Machiavellian route of one-upmanship seen in 2019. Ladakh has been largely seen through a security lens since 2019, with local concerns related to livelihoods, environmental issues, waste management, pollution, and civic issues like access to land for pastoral communities remaining relatively unaddressed in the administrative scheme. The absence of a legislature in the newly formed UT is a key reason why residents seem anxious about the lack of deliberation or avenues to register their concerns. The union government must find a way to meet the legitimate demands of Ladakh and grant it statehood, while also preserving India's polished system of asymmetric federalism.